The invitation was a slap in the face, delivered on 300-gram stock, gold-embossed card. Richard Beaumont, the millionaire tycoon who had publicly discarded her, was inviting his ex-wife, Bella, to his wedding. He was marrying the woman he'd had the affair with, the woman who had replaced her. He expected her to refuse, or worse, to come and weep in the back pew. But Richard had made one catastrophic miscalculation. He had no idea what Bella had been hiding for 5 years. She RSVP'd, yes, but she wouldn't be coming alone. The afternoon sun in November was weak, casting long, thin shadows across Bella Vance's modest but tidy living room. She was sitting on a worn, comfortable armchair, a half-finished mug of herbal tea steaming on the coaster beside her. The peace was broken by the sharp thwack of the mail slot. Bella padded to the door, her stockinged feet silent on the hardwood floor. Among the bills and a catalogue for children's toys, there was one envelope that didn't belong. It was thick, impossibly heavy, and addressed in swirling gold calligraphy to Ms. Bella Vance. Her heart didn't sink. It didn't pound. It simply went cold. She knew the return address, the Beaumont crest, a stylized B that looked more like a fortress than a letter. She slit it open with a kitchen knife, the thick cardstock resisting. Mr. Richard Beaumont and Ms. Isabel Thorne request the pleasure of your company at the celebration of their union, Saturday the 15th of November, at the Beaumont Grand Estate. A wave of nausea hit her, so sudden and potent it made her brace a hand against the wall. It wasn't just an invitation, it was a command performance, a victory lap. Richard Beaumont, her ex-husband, the man who had built a software empire from scratch and, in the process, had methodically demolished her sense of self. They had been married for 8 years. 8 years she had spent supporting him, hosting his insufferable business partners and managing his life, all while he grew richer, more powerful, and more distant. Then came Isabel Thorne. She was everything Bella was not, a decade younger, ruthless, with a background in corporate PR and a portfolio of designer outfits that cost more than Bella's car. The divorce had been a public execution. Richard's lawyers, a pack of tailored sharks from the firm of Lockwood and Pierce, had painted Bella as an anchor holding him back, but the deepest, most private cut was the one he'd used as his public justification. "We just grew apart," he'd told the Financial Times in a profile piece, a masterpiece of understatement. But to their social circle, the one he was now inviting to his wedding, he had been more specific. The whisper campaign had been brutal. Bella was cold. Bella was difficult. Bella, you know, she couldn't give him a child. He had weaponized her infertility, an infertility that, as it turned out, had never existed. The back of the invitation had a small, handwritten note at the bottom in Richard's own aggressive, slashing script. "Bella, let's finally put the past behind us. I'd love to see you there. It's a new beginning for everyone." "Ah, put the past behind us," she whispered. He wasn't offering an olive branch. He was offering a dagger, expecting her to fall on it. He wanted to see her. He wanted to parade his new, young, fertile-looking bride in front of the barren wife he had so skillfully discarded. He wanted to see her break. A small sound came from the hallway. "Mommy?" Bella's entire demeanor shifted. The ice in her veins melted, replaced by a fierce, protective warmth. She dropped the invitation on the hall table as if it were contaminated. A little girl, 5 years old, padded into the room, rubbing her eyes. She was holding a well-loved stuffed rabbit. "You're awake, sweetie," Bella said, her voice soft. "Did you have a good nap?" The girl nodded and lifted her arms. Bella scooped her up, burying her face in the child's messy, dark waves of hair. The girl, Lily, was the exact opposite of Bella. Where Bella was fair, with light brown hair and hazel eyes, Lily was a striking child. She had a strong, defined chin, a head of chaotic black curls, and eyes the color of a summer sky. Piercing, sapphire blue, the exact, unmistakable eyes of Richard Beaumont. Lily was the secret Bella had discovered 6 weeks after Richard had served her with divorce papers. He had been so eager to get her out of his life, to finalize the split and move Isabel in, that he had signed every paper, paid her the insultingly small, pre-negotiated settlement, and had her legally erased from his life within 3 months. He never knew. He was so convinced she was the problem that he never once considered he was about to become a father. "Who was that card from, Mummy?" Lily asked, her voice muffled against Bella's shoulder. Bella held her daughter tightly. She looked at the invitation, a gleaming, white and gold square of pure malice. Richard wanted her to come. He wanted to show her what he had, what she had lost. A slow, cold smile touched Bella's lips. She had lost nothing. And he was about to lose his mind. "It was from an old friend of mine, baby," Bella said, her voice steady and clear. "A man I used to know. He's having a party." She walked into the kitchen, Lily balanced perfectly on her hip. She propped the invitation against the toaster. "And you know what?" Bella continued, her mind racing, a plan clicking into place that was as terrifying as it was necessary. "I think we should go." The next 2 weeks were a blur of calculated preparation. Bella didn't have the Beaumont fortune, but she had something better, taste, and a very specific goal. She wasn't going to his wedding to compete with Isabel. She wouldn't wear white or red or anything that screamed for attention. That was Isabel's style. No, Bella's weapon was dignity. She took a small portion of her emergency fund, money she'd saved from her job as a freelance graphic designer, and went to a small, upscale consignment boutique. She found a dress by a designer she recognized from her old life. It was a deep, almost black sapphire blue. It was modest, with long sleeves and a high neck, but it was cut with such precision that it clung to her figure before flaring out at the knee. It was a dress that said, "I am not to be trifled with." She bought Lily a new dress, too, a simple, classic velvet dress in a cream color, with a matching bow for her unruly curls. The night before the wedding, Bella's older sister Chloe came over. Chloe had been Bella's rock during the divorce. She was a pragmatic, no-nonsense lawyer who had been furious at the small settlement Bella had accepted. "I still think this is a spectacularly bad idea," Chloe said, sipping a glass of wine as she watched Bella pack a small go bag for Lily. Juice, snacks, a coloring book. "He invited me, Chloe," Bella said simply. "He dared you, Bella. That's different. It's a power play. He's a narcissist. He wants to feed on your humiliation. And you're going to walk in there and give it to him. And you're taking her." Chloe gestured to the hallway, where Lily was asleep. "I am not taking her for him," Bella said, her voice low and fierce. "I am taking her for her." "What does that even mean? She's 5. "She started asking questions," Bella said, finally stopping her packing and turning to face her sister. "She asked me last week why she doesn't have a daddy like the other kids at preschool. She's smart, Chloe. She's starting to notice that she doesn't look like me." "At all." Chloe's expression softened. She knew. Anyone who saw Lily knew. "So you're going to do what? Drop her in the middle of his wedding and yell surprise? I'm going to walk in, with my head high, holding my daughter's hand. I'm going to sit in the back, just like a guest, and I'm going to let him see what he threw away. And what happens when he sees her, Bella? What happens when that sociopath realizes he has an heir? He won't just say, "Oh, my mistake." He will come for her. He will use every dollar in his arsenal to take her from you, just to prove he can. This was Bella's deepest fear, the one that kept her awake at night. "He can't," Bella said, more to convince herself than her sister. "I'm her mother. I've raised her. No court would—" "A court?" "Bella, this is Richard Beaumont. He buys courts. He's rich enough to have his own gravity. He'll paint you as unstable, vindictive, a liar who kept his child from him. And he won't be entirely wrong, will he?" The word stung, but Bella didn't flinch. "I'm not a liar. I was a terrified, traumatized woman who had just been publicly shamed by her husband for being barren. I found out I was pregnant after he'd already filed. He was so cruel, so gleeful about getting rid of me. Do you think he would have been a loving father? He would have seen her as a trap. He would have forced me to terminate, or he would have taken her and paid me off. I did what I had to do to protect my baby." "And now?" Chloe pressed. "Why now?" Bella picked up the sapphire blue dress, holding it against her. "Because I'm not scared anymore, and because she deserves her identity. He's not just some man, Chloe. He's one of the most powerful men in the state. She's his daughter. That means something. It's her birthright, whether he likes it or not. I'm not going there for money. I'm not going there for revenge." "Then what are you going for?" Bella met her sister's eyes in the mirror. "Justice." Chloe sighed, finishing her wine. "Well, just in case justice goes sideways, I'll have my phone on all night, and I've already put my managing partner, the best family law attorney in the city, on standby. Just in case." Bella hugged her sister. "Thank you. Now, I need to get some sleep. We have a big day tomorrow." "Good luck," Chloe said, pulling her coat on. "Try not to burn the place to the ground." "I'm not making any promises," Bella replied, but her smile was grim. The Beaumont Grand Estate wasn't just a house. It was a monument to ego, set on 100 acres of pristine, manicured land. The Georgian-style mansion was so large it seemed to bend the horizon. Guests were parking their Bentleys and Porsches on a lawn that had been converted into a valet lot. Bella pulled her own modest sedan into the guest parking area, a half-mile-long walk from the main house. She didn't mind. It gave her time to think, to breathe the cold November air. She got Lily out of her car seat, smoothed down the cream velvet dress, and tied the bow in her hair. "Wow, Mommy, is this a castle?" Lily asked, her blue eyes wide as she took in the towering white pillars. "Sort of, baby," Bella said, taking her hand. "Remember what we talked about?" "I'm not allowed to run," Lily recited. "I have to use my inside voice, and I have to hold your hand. And what else? And I'm not allowed to talk to strangers, unless you say it's okay. That's my girl." Bella took a deep breath, clutching her small, elegant clutch bag. "Let's go to the party." They didn't walk to the main entrance. The invitation had directed guests to the back, where a massive, temperature-controlled pavilion had been erected. It was a sea of white silk, crystal chandeliers, and at least 500 guests. When Bella stepped inside, a hush didn't exactly fall. It was more of a ripple. She was, after all, the ghost of Beaumont past. She saw them first. Mr. and Mrs. Harrington, a couple she and Richard had often played bridge with. Mrs. Harrington, Cynthia, literally stopped with a glass of champagne halfway to her mouth. Her eyes darted from Bella to Lily and back to Bella. She nudged her husband. "Arthur, my God. Is that—" Bella simply nodded at them, a polite, distant smile on her face, and kept walking. She could feel the whispers tracking her like a heat-seeking missile. What is she doing here? He actually invited her. The nerve. And then, the inevitable. But who is the child? She found a pair of empty seats in the third row from the back, an aisle seat, just as the string quartet began to play the processional. Isabel's bridesmaids, a parade of identical women in pale gold silk, began their march. Then at the front, Bella saw him. Richard Beaumont. He looked impossibly handsome in a bespoke tuxedo. He was laughing at something his best man, Gregory Stone, whispered to him. He was triumphant, the king in his court, about to receive his new queen. And then Isabel appeared. She was a vision in a dress that was less a garment and more an architectural feat of lace and diamonds. The music swelled. Richard turned, his face alight with a possessive, proud smile. It was in that moment, as all 500 guests turned to watch the bride, that Bella stood up. She didn't make a sound. She didn't say a word. She simply stood, holding Lily's hand, and began to walk, not out, forward. She walked calmly, deliberately, up the aisle. The whispers became audible gasps. "What is she doing? Security!" Isabel stopped. Her veil hid her expression, but her body went rigid. Richard's smile faltered. He looked annoyed, his eyes flashing with anger. How dare she interrupt his moment? He waved a hand dismissively, signaling for security to intercept her. "Bella, what the hell are you—" He stopped talking. He had been looking at her. He hadn't, until that second, looked down. Bella stopped about 10 feet from the altar, standing directly in the middle of the aisle, blocking the bride's path. Richard's gaze followed the line of Bella's arm down to the small hand she was holding. He saw the cream-colored dress. He saw the dark, unruly curls. And then, Lily, sensing the tension, turned and looked directly at the man everyone was staring at. She tilted her head, her expression one of polite curiosity, and Richard Beaumont found himself staring into a perfect, miniature reflection of his own sapphire blue eyes. Time stopped. The string quartet faltered, the music dying in a discordant whine. 500 guests were silent. Richard's face, which had been flushed with triumph, drained of all color. He looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Isabel, seeing her moment stolen, seeing Richard's face, finally saw the child. She lifted her veil, her perfectly made-up face, a mask of confusion, which quickly curdled into rage. "Richard!" she hissed. "Richard! Who is that?" Richard couldn't speak. He was locked in a staring contest with a 5-year-old girl who had his face. Bella was the first to speak. Her voice wasn't a shout. It was a clear, cool, conversational tone that cut through the silence like a diamond. "Hello, Richard," she said, her smile polite, devastating. "You said to put the past behind us. I thought it was time you finally met her." The silence in the pavilion was absolute, a vacuum waiting for an explosion. Every eye was on the Trinity at the altar, the ghost, the groom, and the child. Richard's hand, which had been outstretched to his bride, slowly dropped to his side. He took one step, then another, moving past a frozen Isabel. He stopped just feet from Bella. He didn't look at her. His entire focus was on Lily. "What is this?" he whispered, his voice a dry rasp. "This," Bella said, giving her daughter's hand a reassuring squeeze, "is Lily. She'll be 6 in August." The math was a gunshot in the silent room. 6 in August. The divorce had been finalized 5.5 years ago. The implication was instantaneous and undeniable. Isabel finally moved. She ripped her veil off, her face contorted in a mask of pure fury. She stormed forward, her billion-dollar dress dragging on the silk runner. "Get her out of here!" she screamed, not at Bella, but at Richard. "Get this circus out of my wedding! Security!" 2 large men in suits started to move from the back, but Richard shot up a hand, stopping them. He didn't look at Isabel. He didn't look at his guests. He just kept staring at Lily. "It's a trick," Isabel spat, her voice trembling. "She's a gold digger, Richard. She's trying to ruin us. She probably paid some child to—" "She has your chin, Richard," Bella said, her voice still infuriatingly calm. "And your grandfather's eyes. The Beaumont blue!" "Wasn't that what your mother called it?" Richard winced, as if she'd slapped him. "You're lying!" Isabel shrieked. "You told me you were barren. He told everyone you were barren." This was it. The moment. Bella looked up from her daughter and met Richard's gaze for the first time. The shock in his eyes was being replaced by a cold, calculating fury. He was no longer a groom. He was a CEO facing a hostile takeover. "That was the story you told, Richard," Bella said. "The one you used to get rid of me. It was very convenient." "A paternity test," Richard said, his voice low and dangerous. "We'll have a paternity test, and when it comes back negative, Bella, I will sue you for everything you have. I will have you arrested for fraud. I will destroy—" "You don't have to," Bella said. She let go of Lily's hand and reached into her small clutch bag. She pulled out a single, folded piece of paper. "I had one done the day she was born." She held it out. Not to him. To the audience. "DNA diagnostics. Incare's match probability, 99.9998%. Father, Richard A. Beaumont." A collective, massive gasp went through the crowd. Mrs. Harrington, in the 3rd row, audibly whispered, "Oh my God." Richard stared at the paper as if it were a serpent. He wouldn't take it. "It's a fake," Isabel said, but her voice was weak. The doubt had set in. She was looking at Lily, really looking at her, and the resemblance was sickeningly obvious. "You knew," Bella said. It wasn't a question. It was an execution. "What?" Richard and Isabel said at the same time. Bella turned her full attention to the bride. "You knew," she repeated. "You knew I was pregnant." I knew no such thing," Isabel stammered. "You're insane." "Am I?" Bella took a step closer. "After the divorce, you were so terrified I'd find a way back into his life that you hired a private investigator, a man named Thomas Sharp. He followed me. He followed me to my sister's house. He followed me to my first OB-GYN appointment." Richard's head snapped toward Isabel. "Isabel, what is she talking about? She's lying. She's a delusional, pathetic." "He took photographs," Bella continued, her voice rising, projecting to every corner of the pavilion. "Photographs of me, 6 months pregnant, buying a crib. He sent the report to your personal email, Miss Thorne. The report was titled, 'The Bella Vance Problem.'" Isabel's face went from white to a mottled, ugly red. She was caught. "You buried it," Bella said. "The final nail. You knew he had a child on the way. You knew, and you let him believe I was barren. You let him go on thinking I was the broken one. You stole his daughter from him." It was a masterstroke. In one move, Bella had transferred all the blame, all the deceit, from herself to her rival. She wasn't the liar. Isabel was. Richard turned, his movement slow, terrifying. He looked at the woman he was about to marry, the woman who was now trembling, her lies exposed to 500 of their most influential friends. "Isabel," he said, and his voice was so cold it could have frozen fire. "Did you know?" Isabel opened her mouth, but only a small squeak came out. She looked at the guests, at Richard, at Bella. She was trapped. It was for us, Richard," she finally cried. "She was trying to trap you. I was protecting you. I was protecting us." "Protecting me," Richard repeated. He looked utterly, completely numb. He looked past her, at Bella, and then at Lily. "Mommy," Lily whispered, her little voice cutting through the drama. "I'm scared. I want to go home." That small voice broke the spell. Bella immediately bent down, scooping her daughter up. "It's okay, baby. We're going to go home right now. I'm sorry." She turned, her back to the ruined altar, and began to walk away. "No." Richard's voice was a command. Bella stopped, but she didn't turn around. "You don't get to do this," he said, his voice shaking with a rage that was replacing the shock. "You don't get to walk in here, drop a bomb, and just walk away. You bring you bring that child here, and you think you can just leave?" Bella turned. Lily was hiding her face in her neck. "I did what you asked, Richard," she said. "I came to your wedding. Now, if you'll excuse us." "This isn't over," he snarled. "This is so far from over." "Richard," Isabel wept. "Don't talk to her. It's me. It's our wedding day." Richard ignored her completely. His entire world had shrunk to Bella and the child in her arms. "I will see you in court, Bella. I will take her. I swear to God, I will take her from you." Bella looked at him, at the man she had once loved, the man who had tried to destroy her. "No, Richard," she said. "You won't. You already threw us both away once. You don't get to do it again." And with that, she turned and walked, with 500 pairs of eyes on her, right out of the pavilion, leaving behind the ruins of Richard Beaumont's perfect life. The walk back to the car was the longest of Bella's life. She could feel the stares of the valets, the security guards, the guests who were already fleeing the scene as if the pavilion were on fire. She didn't run. She walked with measured, deliberate steps, her hand protectively on Lily's back, humming a lullaby to calm her. She was strapping Lily into her car seat when a figure sprinted out of the darkness. "Bella, wait!" It was Gregory Stone, Richard's best man and his chief legal counsel. He was a slick, handsome man who had always looked at Bella with a mixture of pity and disdain. "Stay away from me, Greg," Bella said, slamming the car door. "Bella, you don't know what you've done," he panted, blocking her path to the driver's side. "You can't just do this. This is Richard Beaumont. Get out of my way. He's going to destroy you. Not like last time. This is different. This is biblical. He's going to activate the war machine, he calls it." "The war machine?" Bella scoffed, though a shiver of real fear went down her spine. "I have a 99.9% accurate DNA test, Greg. What's he going to do? He's going to claim you're an unfit mother, that you're mentally unstable, that you kidnapped his child, hid her for 5 years, and used her as a pawn in a vindictive revenge plot. And you know what? He's got a point. I protected my daughter." "You lied," he hissed. "You can't go to war with a billionaire with truth as your only weapon. He will buy the judge. He will buy the press. He will bury you, and he will take that little girl. You will never see her again." Bella's blood ran cold. Chloe had said the same thing. "What do you want, Greg?" "Richard sent me. He's apoplectic, but he's not stupid. He's ready to make a deal. Right here, right now." "A deal. He'll give you $50 million. Tax-free. A trust fund for the girl. An apartment in the city. You sign a paper right now, giving him full custody, and you walk away. You can have visitation." Bella stared at him in disbelief. "He thinks he can buy my daughter in a parking lot after what he did, after what Isabel did." "Isabel is gone," Greg said flatly. "Her things will be on the curb before the catering trucks are gone. This is about you, and him, and the girl. 50 million, Bella. Think about it. You'd never have to work again. The girl would have everything." "She has everything," Bella snapped. "She has me. Now move! She pushed past him. He grabbed her arm. Don't be a fool! You will regret this. You've fired the first shot in a war you cannot win. This wasn't the first shot, Bella said, ripping her arm away. This was the last one. Tell Richard I'll see him in court. She got in her car, locked the doors, and sped away from the estate, her hands shaking so violently she could barely hold the wheel. The next morning, the war machine rumbled to life. At 7:00 a.m., a courier served her with an emergency motion for custody. At 7:05 a.m., her bank called. Her accounts were frozen, pending an investigation into fraudulent activity, a claim filed by Beaumont Industries. At 7:10 a.m., Child Protective Services banged on her door, demanding to see Lily, citing an anonymous tip that she was in an unstable and dangerous environment. It was a blitzkrieg. Bella, however, was prepared. The CPS workers, a stern woman named Mrs. Davis, and a younger trainee, found a spotless apartment, a refrigerator full of fresh fruit and vegetables, and a bright, happy, well-adjusted child eating oatmeal. Mrs. Vance, we received a serious allegation. I know, Bella said, handing them fresh coffee. It was filed by my ex-husband, Richard Beaumont, the man whose wedding I attended yesterday. By invitation, the man who just discovered he is the father of my 5-year-old. Mrs. Davis paused. Pardon? Bella had spent all night, after calling Chloe, preparing. She handed Mrs. Davis a thick folder. In here, Bella said, you will find Lily's birth certificate, her complete medical records, her preschool attendance records, a copy of the paternity test, and a copy of the wedding invitation. Mrs. Davis looked at the documents, her eyes widening. He's a very powerful man, Mrs. Davis, Bella said. And he's angry. He's using you just like he's using the banks to scare me. But I'm not scared. The CPS worker looked from the file to the little girl, coloring peacefully at the table. This is highly irregular, Miss Vance. But everything appears to be in order here. Thank you. Will that be all? They left, confused and clearly intimidated. Bella had won the first skirmish, but the bank was a different problem. She had no money. She called Chloe. He did it. He froze everything. I know, Chloe said. I've been on the phone with my partner since 5 a.m. We're filing a counter motion right now to unfreeze your assets and for an emergency protective order. But Bella, he's retained Lockwood and Pierce. Not just them. He's retained the entire firm. They're going to bury us in paperwork. We can't let him. We won't. Now, I've transferred $10,000 from my own account to a new one I opened in your name at a different credit union. It's not much, but it'll keep you going. Do not, under any circumstances, talk to him. Do not answer his calls. Do not speak to his lawyers. Speak only to me. This is war now, for real. The media, of course, was having a field day. The wedding crasher story was everywhere. The New York Post had a picture of Bella walking out, Lily in her arms, with the headline, Beaumont's Bastard Bride Bomb. They painted Bella as a vindictive shrew, a scorned woman, a gold digger. Richard, in contrast, was painted as the victim. His PR team, led by a shark named Harrison Cole, released a statement. Mr. Beaumont is shocked and devastated by the deceitful actions of his ex-wife, Ms. Vance. For 5 years, she maliciously and illegally kept his child a secret from him. While he is heartbroken by this betrayal, he is overjoyed to learn he has a daughter and will be taking every legal step necessary to ensure her safety and well-being, and to remove her from the toxic environment created by her mother. Toxic environment, Bella screamed, throwing the newspaper across the room. It's good, Chloe said calmly over the phone. It's public. It's angry. It means he's losing control. We just have to stay calm and play the long game." "What's the long game, Chloe? He has all the money and all the power." "He does," Chloe agreed. "But we have the one thing he wants, and we have the truth." The long game turned out to be a 3-month-long legal nightmare. The custody battle was set, and the discovery phase was brutal. Richard's lawyers, true to Greg Stone's word, buried Bella and Chloe in motions, requests for documents, and subpoenas. They were trying to bankrupt them and wear them down. But Chloe was smarter than they were. She didn't fight every battle. She focused on one: the deposition. Richard, in his arrogance, had agreed to be deposed. He wanted to be the one to tell his truth. He thought he could charm the court stenographer, just as he charmed his board of directors. He was wrong. The deposition took place in a sterile conference room at Chloe's firm. Bella was there, as was Chloe. Richard was flanked by Gregory Stone and 2 other lawyers from Lockwood and Pierce. "Please state your name for the record," Chloe began. "Richard A. Beaumont." "Mr. Beaumont, you were married to my client, Bella Vance, from 2012 to 2019, correct?" "Yes." "And during your divorce proceedings, you filed an affidavit, did you not?" Richard's eyes narrowed. "I filed many. I'm referring to the one dated October 14th, 2019, the one in which you state, 'My marriage to Ms. Vance has irretrievably broken down, in no small part due to her inability to provide me with children.'" Richard's lawyer, a man named Mr. Pierce, spoke up. "Objection. This is irrelevant. This is a custody hearing, not a divorce post-mortem." "It is entirely relevant, Counselor," Chloe snapped. "It speaks directly to my client's state of mind and the reasons she took the actions she did. The judge will allow it. Please answer, Mr. Beaumont." Richard waved a hand at his lawyer. "It's fine, Robert. Yes, I said that. It was the truth." "Was it?" Chloe asked, leaning forward. "Did you have medical proof of her inability?" "We tried, for years. It never happened." "So you assumed the problem was with her?" "It was a reasonable assumption." "So reasonable," Chloe said, "that you repeated it, to your friends, to your business associates, to the press. You publicly and privately branded my client as barren. Is that a fair assessment?" "Objection," Pierce shouted. "Relevance." "Overruled," Chloe said, ignoring him. "Answer the question, Mr. Beaumont." I don't recall my exact words." "Oh, let me help you," Chloe said, pulling out a stack of printouts. "Here is a Tatler magazine interview where you allude to different life goals. Here is a gossip column quoting an anonymous source. We all know it was you, Richard, saying Bella was more interested in her garden than a family. And here," she pulled out a different document. "Here is an email from you to your ex-fiancée, Isabel Thorne, dated 1 week before the wedding. You're discussing the guest list." Chloe cleared her throat and read, "Isabel, my love, I insist we invite Bella. It's the perfect final chapter. Let her see what a real family, a real future looks like. Let her see you, radiant and beautiful, and let her sit in the back and think about what she was too cold and empty to give me." The room went silent. Richard's face was ashen. Gregory Stone was staring at the table. "You're taking that out of context," Richard stammered. "Am I?" Chloe said. "This is the man you are, Mr. Beaumont, the man who would publicly humiliate his ex-wife for sport. And you wonder why she didn't run to you with open arms when she discovered she was pregnant. You, the man who had just branded her as empty? She should have told me," he roared, his composure finally breaking. "It was my right to know." "A right? Did you earn that right? Or did you throw it away when you threw her out? She was terrified. Terrified you would take the baby. Terrified you would accuse her of lying. Terrified you would do, well, exactly what you're doing right now. Chloe sat back, folding her hands. My client is not asking for money, Richard. She has never asked you for a cent. She's not asking to cut you out. She is asking for one thing, to be left alone to raise her daughter in peace. But you, in your infinite arrogance, can't allow that. You have to win. You have to own everything, including a child you never knew you had and a woman you tried to destroy. Richard was breathing hard. He looked at Bella, his eyes burning with a hatred so pure it was terrifying. You. This isn't over. Oh, I think it is, Chloe said, closing her file. We're done here. After the deposition, the tide turned. The email was leaked. Bella suspected Chloe, but never asked. The callous email from Richard to Isabel was a media sensation. Suddenly, Bella wasn't a vindictive gold digger. She was a woman wronged, a mother protecting her child from a monstrous narcissist. Richard's PR team was in shambles. Harrison Cole quit. Sponsors of a major golf tournament Richard's company was backing began to pull out. His board of directors was concerned. 2 days before the custody hearing, Gregory Stone called Chloe. He wants to settle, Greg said. His voice was tired. We're not interested in a settlement, Chloe said. We're ready for court. No, listen. He'll agree to all your terms. Bella gets full physical custody. He'll pay child support, whatever the court mandates. No more, no less. He'll set up a trust for Lily to be managed by a third party that she can't access until she's 25. He'll pay all your legal fees. He'll pay for Lily's education. In return, he gets visitation. Supervised at first. Then, we'll see. And Bella signs an NDA, a permanent, ironclad non-disclosure agreement. She never speaks of him, the email, the wedding, or this case, ever again. Chloe looked at Bella, who had been listening on speaker. Bella thought for a long moment. An NDA. He wanted to silence her, but he was giving in. She would have custody. Lily would be safe, and her future would be secure. He was giving her everything she'd actually wanted. She nodded. She agrees, Chloe said. The war ended not with a bang, but with the dry, anticlimactic rustle of paperwork. The settlement, brokered by Chloe and a deeply chastened Gregory Stone, was ironclad. Bella was granted full physical custody. A staggering, non-negotiable trust fund was established for Lily, managed by a neutral third party, untouchable by anyone, especially Richard, until Lily's 25th birthday. A separate private settlement was paid to Bella, filed under a corporate severance clause from her long-forgotten consulting work for Beaumont Industries, a legal fiction to mask the NDA's price. And the NDA was absolute. Bella, Chloe, and even Chloe's firm were bound to permanent silence. The infamous deposition email was sealed. The story, without a steady drip of new outrage, died. The press, denied its villain and its victim, simply moved on. The first check that cleared was for an amount Bella had to sit down to read. It wasn't a win. It was, she felt, the exact, calculated invoice for 5 years of her life and the attempted theft of her child. She didn't celebrate. She transferred the money, called a realtor, and began to build a fortress. Not of money, but of peace. She moved 2 towns over. She bought a modest, charming brick cottage with a slightly overgrown garden, a white picket fence, and a magnificent, ancient oak tree in the backyard. It was the antithesis of the Beaumont estate. It was warm, it was real, and it was hers. For 6 months, life was beautifully, gloriously normal. Bella set up a home office, taking on only as much graphic design work as she wanted. She joined the PTA. She spent her mornings planting roses and hydrangeas, a quiet, symbolic reclamation of the garden Richard had once mocked. Lily, away from the tension, blossomed. She was enrolled in a local ballet class, made 3 new best friends, and was, by all accounts, a happy, normal 6-year-old. And then, the second Saturday of April, the arrangement began. The terms were specific. Richard was granted visitation, starting with 2-hour supervised sessions, twice a month. Bella had dreaded this day, her stomach a knot of ice. She had explained it to Lily simply. A man who is a part of you is coming to visit. He wants to get to know you. Lily, in her 6-year-old wisdom, had just asked, "Is he nice?" Bella had paused. "He's learning, sweetie." At 10 a.m. on the dot, 2 cars pulled up. The first was the court-appointed supervisor, a stern, no-nonsense woman named Ms. Albright. The second was a black, silent sedan. Richard Beaumont stepped out. He looked wrong. He was in casual clothes, dark, new-looking jeans and a grey cashmere sweater, but he wore them like an ill-fitting costume. He was a man built for bespoke suits, and without his armour, he seemed both smaller and more menacing. "Miss Vance," Ms. Albright said, with a crisp nod. "Mr. Beaumont, we'll conduct the visitation in the primary living area, if you please." "Of course," Bella said, her voice tight. Richard just nodded, his eyes scanning the small house, his expression unreadable. Lily, holding Mr. Rabbit, came down the hall. She hid behind Bella's legs. Richard saw her, and for a second, he froze. It was the same shock from the wedding, but quieter, sadder. "Hello, Lily," he said. His voice was a rasp. Lily just stared. "I brought you something," he said. He gestured to his driver, who retrieved an enormous, ridiculously over-the-top box wrapped in pink foil. He brought it inside, and Miss Albright immediately said, "Mr. Beaumont, the guidelines state no gifts in excess of $50. "It's a doll," Richard said, already annoyed. He opened it. It was a life-sized, uncannily realistic porcelain doll with glass eyes and real hair, wearing a Victorian-style dress. It must have cost thousands. Lily took one look at it and burrowed her face deeper into Bella's leg. "It's scary, Mommy," she whispered. "It looks like a ghost." Richard looked genuinely baffled. It's imported. It's the best one." "She doesn't like it, Richard," Bella said, her voice flat. An awkward, terrible silence filled the room. Miss Albright sat on a chair, opened a notebook, and clicked her pen. "Well," Richard said, dusting off his hands. He sat, stiffly, on Bella's comfortable sofa, looking as out of place as a wolf in a dollhouse. "So," he said to Lily, "do you go to school?" Lily nodded, still hiding. "And you enjoy, what, tiddlywinks?" "She's 6, Richard, not 80, Bella muttered. He shot her a look of pure venom, the old Richard, before remembering Miss Albright. The next hour was agony. Richard, a man who could command a boardroom of 50, a man who had built an empire from code and charisma, had absolutely no idea how to talk to a child. He asked her if she liked the market. He tried to explain what a hostile takeover was. He sat there, a portrait of impotent power, while Lily simply ignored him and played with Mr. Rabbit on the floor. At 11:58 a.m., Miss Albright cleared her throat. "Time is up, Mr. Beaumont." Richard stood up so fast he almost knocked over a lamp. He looked at Bella, at Lily, and at the terrifying doll. "I'll have my driver. Dispose of this," he said. He fled the house without a goodbye. Bella closed the door, leaned against it, and let out a breath she'd been holding for 2 hours. It was a disaster. The next few visits were no better. He was stiff, awkward, and clearly resentful. He was a king being forced to pay penance, and he hated it. The shift happened, not with a bang, but with a whisper. It was their 4th visit. Richard, having learned the no gifts rule, had shown up empty-handed and irritable. "Lily," Bella said, pushing her daughter forward, "why don't you show Richard your drawings?" Lily, with a sigh, brought over her art pad. She had drawn a picture of their garden, a bright, chaotic mess of green and yellow. "It's a garden," Richard said. "This is the oak tree," Lily said, pointing. "And this is Mr. Rabbit. And this," she pointed to a green smudge, "is a dragon. He's hiding." Richard looked at the smudge. "Dragons aren't green." "Yes, they are," Lily said, indignant. "The big ones are. They're green, and they breathe fire, and they sleep on mountains of gold." "That's oddly specific," Richard said. "I saw it in a book," Lily said, and for the first time she sat on the floor near him and began to tell him, in excruciating 6-year-old detail, the plot of a library book she'd checked out. Richard was, by all accounts, bored stiff. But he was also trapped. Miss Albright was watching. Bella was watching. So he did the only thing he could. He listened. When the visit was over, he looked at Bella. "A green dragon?" "It's her new obsession," Bella said. "She's a very imaginative child." "Yes," Richard said, a strange expression on his face. "She is." 6 months after the wedding, on a bright Saturday in May, the black sedan pulled up. It was the first visit, as per the settlement, that was to be unsupervised. Bella was a wreck. Chloe had been on the phone with her all morning. "He's not going to take her, Bella. The agreement is too tight. He'd lose everything. Just breathe." Bella opened the door. Richard was standing there. He was in his casual clothes, but this time they looked less like a costume. He was holding a small, flat, rectangular object wrapped in simple brown paper. "Bella," he nodded. "Richard." "Daddy." The word, so new, so potent, shot from the hallway. Lily ran past Bella and stopped, vibrating with excitement, a few feet from him. He looked at her, and a small, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. It was the first genuine smile she'd ever seen him give his daughter. "Hey, Pipsqueak," he said. He held out the package. "I brought you something. I checked," he said to Bella. "It's under the $50 limit." Lily tore it open. It was a book, a hardcover, beautifully illustrated children's book. On the cover was a magnificent, fearsome beast. "The Green Dragon of Whispering Peak," Lily read, sounding out the hard words. She looked at him, her blue eyes, his blue eyes, wide with a joy that was so pure it was almost painful to watch. You got him," she whispered. "I did some research," Richard said, his voice gruff. "Apparently he doesn't just sleep on gold. He sleeps on gems, and he likes to eat knights." "No!" Lily shrieked with laughter. "He eats fish. Knights are his friends." "Ah, my mistake." "Read it to me," she commanded, and grabbed his hand. "Lily, he began, looking at Bella, a silent, awkward plea for help. "Go on, Richard," Bella said, her voice soft. "She's been waiting." He sighed, the long-suffering sigh of a man who was used to giving orders, not taking them from a 6-year-old. But he let her drag him into the living room. Bella went into the kitchen to make tea. She stood at the counter, listening. She watched them through the doorway. He sat on her floor, his back against her sofa, looking ridiculous. A billionaire tycoon, a shark, a man who had tried to unleash a war machine on her, now sitting cross-legged on a floral rug. Lily was snuggled up next to him, her head on his arm, pointing at the pictures. "And so the dragon," Richard read, his voice low and, to Bella's shock, surprisingly good, told the knight, "I am not hoarding this gold, you fool. I am curating it." Lily giggled. "You sound like a grumpy dragon, Daddy." "I'm told I have my moments," he murmured. Bella sipped her tea. She would never, ever forgive him. The cruelty he had displayed at the wedding, the cold calculation of the email, the years he had stolen from her, those were scars that would never fade. He was not a good man. He was not by nature a kind man. But as she watched him patiently reread the same page for the third time, because Lily loved the picture, she saw something new. She saw a father. She had not gone to the wedding for revenge. She had said it was for justice, but that was only half true. She had gone because her daughter deserved to know who she was. She deserved her identity. She deserved to not be a secret, a problem that had been buried by a cruel woman and a careless man. Bella had wanted recognition for her child, and in the end she had gotten it. She had secured Lily's future, and in the process she had saved Richard from himself. He had lost his pride, his fiancée, and his pristine reputation. But he had gained a daughter. Bella looked out the window at her garden. The roses were beginning to climb the fence. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't a fairy tale. But it was real. And as she listened to the sound of Richard's low voice and Lily's bright, pealing laughter, she realized it was, finally, peace. What a story, right? It just goes to show that the truth, no matter how long it's buried, always finds a way to the surface. Bella thought she was just going for justice, but she ended up changing 3 lives forever. What do you think? Was Bella right to bring Lily to the wedding, or did she go too far? Was Richard's downfall deserved, or was he a victim of Isabel's lies too? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If you loved this drama, please give this video a like. It really helps the channel. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. We post crazy, real-life dramas just like this one every single week. Share this with someone who needs a good story, and we'll see you in the next one.